This is REGFNHOWARD Raw, Siren Buddha Medicine. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. You know the one. The one everybody knows is there. But nobody's talking about. That thing you can feel in the air. That elephant we keep on juggling around. So anyway, I'm thinking about this elephant, and I'm thinking about perception and how those of us who are already up to speed know that perception is just a matter of opinion, programming, cultural references. So it's your pivotal point and reality that discerns the environment, what you think is going on, how you feel about it, how you think other people feel about you. But it may not be true. That's why someone else can have an entirely different experience because of their own set of programming, their own. Like if life was to be a piece of film, a piece of old film, and it was leaving a trail, and each day was a frame. Some people would like their movie, and others probably want to leave it on the cutting floor. So it's all a matter of perception. So, one man's junk is another man's treasure. One man's savior is another man's sin. If I help you, am I hurting someone else? So, what I'm saying is, depending on your pivotal point, you're going to look at a situation differently. So the elephant in the room is even going to be different. But what's most important about perception is frequency. See, those little pieces of film have a vibration attached to them. Like watching a horror movie, the difference between a horror movie and a comedy, or a drama. And we have that friend who's all drama. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Everything's, man, this happened, and that happened again. And when they did it again, there's always something, the drama. And then you have the horror movies, those comedy horror movies, that would be me at times, I would think, scary movie, something silly like that, till you get tired of it and shut it off and go meditate. But that's a matter of perception. Somebody else might look at it like a Cheech and Chong. But anyway, I realized it's about frequency. See, each day that you lived your life had a theme. And so when you do behavioral modification, you realize that the most important thing is setting a pattern. This is our biggest issue when it comes to discipline, is setting a pattern. But anyone will tell you, when it comes to learning anything, or changing anything, that you'll get into a routine. And after a certain amount of time, even with martial arts, if you do a certain move for so many times, it just becomes embedded in you. You know? That's part of the reprogramming process, part of the responsibility. Let me just paint another picture about how blind some of us are, or in denial, as to the programming. How just, unaware we are. How about in the 70s and 80s when we had the soap operas? I used to go to school, grade school, and I would come home, and everyone, including the men who were at work, knew what was going on the soap operas. And that, I think, was one of the biggest indoctrinations. You had One Life to Live. You had Channel 3 and you had Channel 8. You had As the World Turns and General Hospital. And these stations, these shows, they had different storylines. And they showed how scandalous women and men could be. And all day long, I don't know, we watch these crazy shows. You could look it up on YouTube. These old soap operas, dramas. So, if your mother or your father listened to it, or your grandparents, they had that in them. If you know about social indoctrination or, television, and how exactly what we're talking about, how media feeds you certain behaviors and stuff. How it unconsciously or subliminally feeds you ideas that you should feel this way or think that way about particular people or things. So, they sat in front of the TV every day, Monday through Friday, for hours, watching these families on TV do twisted things. And then talked about it on their spare time. And between the flooding of drugs and alcohol and the rest of the programming. So that I believe that did have an effect. Although it's not spoken about, it should be considered. This is what I realized. Sometimes you can walk into a room and you just don't like a person. Why? They didn't say anything or do anything. And it could be you, even though you might have certain special abilities to be able to interpret things. Can we internalize that it's us sometimes? We just don't like certain people and they didn't even do anything. They're just being themselves. Sometimes the elephant in the room is you. So we may put a lot of stress on ourselves. And it's to no fault of our own. It just is. That there are just certain types that rub each other the wrong way. Instead of casting blame or denying emotions, denying feelings, denying that we are thinking and feeling that way about others, casting blame, projecting, we can give ourselves a break and say, sometimes things just are, and find better ways to interact and deal with others. That's the responsible approach to realizing that I am the elephant in the room, that there's just something, sometimes there's just things you can't do, there's that one person, that one personality type that you just, you just don't want to do it. Choice. Not to drive yourself crazy dealing with that. Is that person bad or dismantled in any way? Maybe not, Maybe they're just being themselves. So that's the point that I want to make. There's also giving too much power to something. The elephant in the room. Did anyone notice that Trump has become the nameless one? Nobody wants to really say the president-elect Trump. They're saying, him, or they're saying anything but his name. It reminds me of Voldemort, the name Voldemort, the nameless one from Lord of the Rings. Not to mention during his inauguration, I was looking at the the setup when they're on the podium, and they're showing the cameras certain angles that were showing Washington D.C. and him sitting there. I remember thinking, wow, that looks a lot like a setup from the Lord of the Rings, like the Eye of Voldemort. I wish I could find that angle, but they didn't show it again once I saw it that one time during his inauguration. So notice how people are giving this so much power. Why do we bring him in the room all the time? Do you see the power of a thought and the programming? Look at it for what it is. If we can do that with this one thing, imagine how many things we have not paid attention to that we bring into the room with us as individuals, and then project them onto others when they don't even need to be there. If we would just concentrate on ourselves and making the best interactions that we can. Character defects or idiosyncrasies. Sometimes we project things on others and therefore become the elephant in the room kind of thing. Reminding ourselves, bringing in certain frequencies. Like, where did they come from? Why are we paying so much attention to this elephant in the room anyway? Especially if it's just hypothetical or, mythological. It's not actually there in the room, right? Will the issue step forward onto the table and people just talk about it? Then it won't be the elephant in the room. Why is it in the background playing as an imaginary creature? Anyhow, I hope I was able to make these connections for you about the elephant in the room, and how it does have the potential to be you at times. The elephant in the room is me. And the sooner that I can admit that, the sooner we start having healthier relationships. And see, I can work on those things. I can talk about them. I can ask myself why I feel particular ways about things. And then choose to not ignore it. And I can hone in on that frequency of another person trying to actually accomplish the same thing, working on themselves. And I can also see the person that's BSing, because they don't have the ability to do this. It's difficult. Raw. and in love. Much love to you. REGFNHOWARD, Raw, Siren Buddha Medicine, the elephant in the room.